The time between ages 27 and 31 can feel like absolute hell. I'm going to talk a little bit about why that is from an astrological perspective. This is a period that's known as a Saturn return. And when we say return, we're talking about Saturn making a full trip around your chart and returning to the position that it was in when you were born. So what the hell does that mean, and what do you need to know about it? First, let's talk about the archetype of Saturn and the archetypical themes associated with Saturn. Saturn represents limitation and constriction. It represents discipline, habits, hardship, blockages, challenges. We all just kind of want to be kids and run around and be free and do whatever we want without consequence. And Saturn comes in, and Saturn is just a huge asshole and tells us, no, you can't do that because there's going to be consequences. You can't spend all your money at the candy store because you have to pay your electric bill. Or you can't just go do whatever you want in a relationship or at your job because, hey, they might be pissed at you or you might get fired, right? Our daily habits and our habit structures, that's all associated with Saturn, right? What kind of things are we doing on a daily basis? How are we taking care of ourselves? How are we taking care of our body and our homes? We can all have bad days or bad weeks, or we can all go on, drug binges or coke binges for a week. We can all go on drug binges here and there. I'm mostly kidding about that. Maybe you can get away with it, but in the long term, Saturn is all about, all right, this is what you've been doing for kind of a long time. I'm knocking on the door and these are the consequences, right? Wherever we find Saturn in our chart, that's going to be the domain of life where the lessons and themes of Saturn are going to be most directly experienced, and the areas in which we're going to most directly have to confront limitation and obstacles and delays and hardship, right? If someone has Saturn in the 7th house, which is typically the house of one-on-one relationships, intimate friendships, romantic relationships, and marriages. Saturn here means that there's going to have to be some hard lessons learned around relationships before a person really maybe finds success in that area. Or sometimes Saturn there would mean that, there's going to be some interruption or delay or breakup in a relationship. And, ultimately it's going to help that person sort of come to a higher lesson or a higher place of understanding or maturity. But Saturn sucks. Saturn sucks in a lot of ways. When Saturn is transiting around our chart and makes significant aspects to other important places in our chart, like maybe where our sun or moon or critical angles are located, these are typically going to be periods of heightened significance. So a very significant Saturn transit might mean that you might lose a job or have a pay cut or get laid off, and you are suddenly now going to have to figure out a way to support yourself or pay your bills or figure everything out with this kind of added limitation. And while you're in it, it sucks. But if you get past it, and when you eventually get past it, you kind of build a new life muscle, a new psychic muscle, a new habit muscle to overcome things like that. Saturn is all about what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So when Saturn makes a full trip around the chart and returns to its natal position, which means in astrology speak that transit Saturn is conjunct natal Saturn, this is when we've had a chance to experience Saturn energy in every house throughout our chart. And so we've experienced those kind of Saturnian lessons in every aspect of our life. And it represents a complete cycle. And this is a time of significance, right? Because it's sort of this point where we're being challenged to take the next step in our life, to become a higher, mature, higher order version of ourself in order to live more closely to our purpose and to do that with better focus, maybe some better discipline. What I really mean by that is Saturn is a lot about stripping away what's not essential, right? So sometimes focus isn't about focusing harder or paying attention to something harder. It's about letting things that aren't going to be as important go away. It's about making tough choices. It's about opportunity costs. It's about being able to identify what things are not essential and letting them go, right? We're not going to be able to do everything, and we're not going to be able to be great at everything. We can't fill up every cup that we encounter in our life. Some things have to die, like some relationships we might need to move on from. Sometimes it's a job. Maybe we need to make that career leap that is going to be really hard and challenging and scary, but like deep down, maybe we really need to do it. That whole confrontation is especially what's at the core of a Saturn return, right? There's going to be external circumstances in our life that force us to really think about, what do I need to strip away and leave behind? What have I learned as a culmination of these past 27, 28, 29 years that has taught me what I want to prioritize in the next 27, 28, 29 years? What is serving me and what is not serving me? And so a Saturn return really gets a bad rap because a lot of times people talk about it as all like doom and gloom, but it's really not. It's an exciting opportunity. It's a benchmark, and it's not something that comes out of nowhere, right? It's something that's been building. You're gonna feel it most acutely, during a 3 or 4 month period, during about age 28, but you start kind of feeling it 25, 26, 27, it starts heating up. And you still kind of are experiencing the after effects, all the way up until like 30, maybe 31. If you're aged 27 to 31 right now, you can probably immediately think of some things in your life that are presenting some kind of challenge or tension for you. And maybe you don't want to face it head on, or you want to pretend that it doesn't exist. But now is not the time to do that, right? You're being forced to deal with it right now. It's like, you got to take out the garbage. Your mom's telling you to take out the garbage. There's no tomorrow, there's no doing it in 2 hours. Like, you gotta take it out now, or like bad shit is gonna happen. That's what's gonna happen. But the reason it does get a bad rap, and the reason why maybe the doom and gloom is somewhat fitting, is that it's not always going to be easy, right? Say you are in this relationship that you are in for like the past few years, or maybe, however long, and deep down that like, that's not really the right relationship for you, or it's just not gonna work. You might be resisting that change, or you might sense the friction and the pain that's gonna come with it, and so you're kind of like avoiding it. Saturn is gonna force you to deal with it right now, right? It could be that the side effects of the relationship, or the ways that it's bringing you down, become more and more acute and more difficult to ignore. Or maybe something external happens in your life where like you meet someone new that you're like really drawn to, or maybe a job or family is like pulling you in a different geographic area. And so there's no like doing what you're still doing now. Like, you're going to have to take an exit. It's either left or right. And that's actually like a really good metaphor for a Saturn return. It doesn't have to be soul crushing. It's basically just like you've been cruising along the highway, and if you haven't been like paying attention to the fact that like maybe you have a flat tire, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but like you can't keep going straight, right? There's something now in your way. You can't drive through it. You have to either turn right or you have to turn left. It has to be kind of a deliberate choice. And if you keep going straight, you're going to like crash, or your car's gonna get totaled, or you're gonna die, like not literally, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't keep going. Saturn returns also can really manifest in terms of like health or habit issues, or drug issues coming up, right? If you've been living a very unhealthy life, or maybe you're drinking too much, or you're kind of doing things that aren't serving your body, those things are going to kind of start showing up now. Like, maybe you have a health scare, or something happens, and it's very clear that you can't keep doing what you're doing at the pace that you've been doing it at. There's going to be consequences, and those consequences have shown their terrifying face. And even, putting aside the astrological lens, it really makes sense, right? For a lot of us, the number 30, turning 30, is very psychologically and emotionally poignant. Like, it feels scary. It's a sense of grief, where basically it's almost a kind of death, right? We're losing our 20s, we're losing our youth, we're no longer young. Life starts to feel a little bit like less completely open-ended and full of possibility, and maybe we start sort of feeling the walls kind of closing in a little bit, and like psychologically approaching that age is it's scary. It is scary, and it's totally fair. The most important thing to realize is that you're fine. Like, there's really like no such thing as a time limit, as long as you're focused and you've identified kind of what you want in life and what you want to prioritize. Saturn return is all about you deciding, what you want to focus on, and what opportunity costs you're willing to pay and what you're willing to sacrifice, because you can't do everything. You can't do everything without consequence. Saturn return is a time that is really going to help you become a more fully authentic and focused and stronger version of you. So keep all that in mind. Even if you're going through hell right now, sometimes it sucks. It's okay that it sucks right now. It might suck for a little bit longer, but stay as positive as possible, stay as deliberate, stay as action-oriented, make decisions, own them, be in the driver's seat, and see what happens. I don't think it's going to be as bad as you might think. Anyway, that's all for now. Good luck, and thank you for watching.